Hello guys, this is me here. So today I'm going to show you how to cut out and make a paper bus, a paper transit bus, which I don't think I ever showed a video of. But I thought it'd be nice to do it since I previously did a video on a subway train from Toronto on how to make it. So here's what you will need. Now you can see I have others, as you can see. Now this particular one is based on an Orion 7 bus, an older style one, with its, I believe this is Mississauga Transit. Yeah, it's Mississauga Transit's livery. I thought it'd be cool to show how to make this, and there's other colors or variants you can choose. I wanted to choose this one because I thought it was pretty cool, the paint job, and especially the back, and I plan on doing it. Also, I wanted to do something special because this is not an ordinary paper bus, and as you can see, it's made out of a cardboard. You would also need, this is what you're going to need to assemble it. You're going to need the template, which you can find on its website. This is the stuff there. I don't own any of this, but that's just part of it, whatever. You'll need... Well, it comes with the windshield itself. Something special that I did with the previous ones is that they have wheels to where they do not bend. And it's much harder, the wheels, because what I did, and you'll see the trick, you're going to need 4 chopped off ends of a lollipop or popsicle sticks. 4 of them, although if you're making a longer bus you might need 6 if it was an articulated bus or a motor coach bus, but I'm only going to use 4 since we're doing a transit bus. You're going to need those. You're also going to need some super glue to attach it, or even wood glue, although I kind of prefer using super glue, even though super glue is more for plastic things. I wanted to cut out the template easier instead of just showing how to cut it, but you have to cut the perimeter around it, very similar to the subway train I did a year ago or this last year. So yeah, now we're going to show you how to assemble it in 3, 2, 1. So this is slightly different from, I think, the other Orion bus I think I showed one time. It's a different design. What we're going to do is we're going to, now, the thing you have to do is you have to cut the wheels in a way, and I would prefer using a razor knife or a knife that cuts boxes, although you want to be very careful not to do it too hard, or you might cut it wrongly. But as you can see, I did it, and now the wheel can come off. So now that I did this, we're going to show you how to fold it. First, you take any side of it and you fold the frame very carefully. Try not to try not to fold the base. Sometimes these folds can go well, sometimes they don't. This one seems to be going just nicely. It looks like at first it's messy because I was just folding it, but don't worry, we have it there. Now, since I glued this on a piece of cardboard or cardstock paper or anything that was harder, if any of this is here, you take scissors and you carefully trim it. Make sure you don't actually trim the wheels. Oh, I might have had trimmed it. Oopsie. Well, it's kind of unnoticeable unless you do it big by accident. Alright, there we go. That's the wheel. I'll also try to shape it in case it's miscut or misfigured. Wheels are probably the hardest thing to cut out. You pretty much have to cut it perfectly or it's not gonna look great. Alright, then make sure by the way when you do this stuff that you don't cut your fingers. In fact, adult supervision should be required of cutting this. but you can see I trimmed the wheels so that it looks nice. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, like this. Make sure you poke the wheels out before you fold, because the wheels are not gonna fold in properly. And just fold the whole thing in half, like this. Not the bus in half, but just this border line. That's how we get the bus body. You see? It's starting to look like one. Now, for more detail, what I do is you do have to be careful when you do this, but I'll show it. Now, you don't have to do this, but for me, I kind of prefer it, because in the real bus, it actually has it. You can somehow make the windows more slanted if you fold it with a ruler, but be very careful that when you do fold it, you don't fold everything. And I would also recommend you, before you glue the chopsticks, not chopsticks, I'm just kidding, popsicle sticks, you have to do it in a way that you do it after, because if you put it just right now, you're gonna have a hard time folding it because it's in the way. And you can see how it's because some buses have this slanted design. You don't want to make it too slanted, you just want to give it a bit of a slope. Like, it'll still look flat. You just want to carefully give it an angle. Maybe like this, but flatter. I'll show you an example of what I did. You see how this has a angle? See? That's what you want to do. So there we go. Now we do it on the other side, which is easy. You take the ruler. I prefer using metal rulers, but plastic ones should do as long as they're not fragile. And when you get to the bottom part, you don't want to keep folding or you'll fold the windows. You fold this other part. I don't know how, like, where the seam, where it's like folded, comes from. All I just know is that it starts at the windows, the seam, and then it starts at the back. There. Now we should also flatten the doors, because the doors are not slanted, but they're kind of, not fully. So there we go. Oh, now the next trick is very tricky, but before we do that tricky step, you want to fold this piece in half, so that it gives it that look that's like some vehicles always have it, so that it doesn't scrape the ground. Then you fold the bumper in a way to make it look like a separate piece from the base. In real life, this little portion here would also be painted black, but it's just because it's a bus and it's always going to be flat, you may not notice it. You fold the bumper there, then you fold another one, but do it halfway so that it's equal. It should show a border line anyways, but you fold it like this. Now, the next part is tricky to do, but easy. You take your nail or anything like, and then you carefully fold the bumper so that it sticks out and it's not part of the body. And that's how we get, I'll show you an example. You see how it has the bumper like this? That's how we get that when we fold it in and out like that, like a valley fold and a mountain fold. Want to do a mountain and a valley. Mountain and a valley. The valley on the bus bumper joint and the mountain fold on the bumper area, this middle part, so that it looks like I'll show you something like this. You see that? Next one is my favorite part, or it's a fun part. We have to fold the back. Make sure the back is still flat even when you fold it, but you want to make it so that it's not round the edging. because once you push it back, you see how it's more rounder. We want it to look flat as if it had a seam. So we have to use our nail and we have to like pinch it in a way that it looks flat. Oh, and I chose because I know that some people are gonna struggle with this next part, which we'll mention. But we'll mention that later. Now this next part is incredibly tricky. For some reason this piece here is not separate. However, the problem though is that the real life Orion 7s actually have this strange piece. I'll show it to you. You see how it's like 3D? You see how it's like 3D or something? It's like a strange type of grill. It's supposed to be sticking out, but it's just all flat for some reason. So to fix that, we're gonna very carefully, now be very careful when you do this, because you want to at first you fold it and try to, like when you're folding it, you curve it at the border lines of the black piece grill area. Now make sure this is very tricky, but at the same time I had solved it before, as you can see with my other ones. The next step is we fold it. It's very tricky. It's a very tricky fold. But we have to fold it so that it looks more 3D or whatever. Holy moly. That's a tough one. Ah, there we go. Look at that. That's what we want to give. So that's what it's supposed to have, but for some reason when I printed it out, it never came with an area where you can fold this, so I decided to customize that on my own by just showing you a tip. And I also decided to make the slant area more slopier so that it looks more like it, because the back of it is not actually flat. It has a bit of a slant or a slope. And when I added this little piece, it belongs to it's to make it look 3D. So there you go. That's a cool trick. How cool is that? Next we're gonna fold the roof section. This is very tricky because you see how it's doing this? We don't want it to fold the whole bus. We want to fold, it's even better you use a ruler for this. You take a ruler and you straighten it, but make sure that when you do straighten it, you don't, let's say, flatten the, you want to bend only the roof part so that it's flat. You don't want to bend the, let's say, the whole bus, because that wouldn't look very cool. It look very strange. Remember, this is a modern type of bus. This is not those fishbowl buses or anything like that. Or even the very old Orions, even though this one was made in 2001, from what I saw. Oh, and if sometimes, because I glued it onto paper, sometimes that seems to happen. So you know what you can do? You take a very tiny dab of glue, and you take the cutout pieces that you were, like this excess garbage, and this is also in case you don't have a brush. You carefully, now, a glue stick is much easier for this, and it's much better because it's not wet. But what I do is I put it in, I would also flatten it, and there you go. It's all nice and clean, whatever. I would also put tape on it too, for the thing to stick. Like this, for an example. I'll show you. There. That should work. So, you make sure that the roof is flattened and it doesn't like flatten like that. It's very hard, this bus. But it works. So, yeah. There we go. Now we have to do the windshield part. Now that's a tricky part. Well, only the folding is not that bad. In fact, this is going to be tricky since it's very long. you're gonna do the same thing you did to the back. You fold it like this, and then you do another, like you do a, oh look, it kind of gave it something. This is very tricky, but we want to, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but most of the time it will if you do it very hard. You make a mountain fold at the other bumper so that it's like a 3D shape, because bumpers are never flat. You do that, and then you keep, now you have to keep folding it very sharply so that it gives it a bumper look. We want the bumper to be normally like a square prism or something, like a rectangular prism. So yeah, that's very hard. Alright, so there we go. We did it. See the bumper? Now we have to fold this. And then we have to carefully, you don't want to bend it, but just bend it a little bit so that it's curved like this window. And what's strange about these Orions is that they had these windows that were like a strange windshield curve, which I never got what it meant. Maybe it's so that the driver can easily survive or something. I have no idea. But yeah, now we're gonna do a part that mostly requires more adults for this. You're gonna take some super glue, any super glue. I would mostly recommend gel. However, you can use the liquid ones. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a drop of it. You see that drop? We're gonna put that drop. And if there's too much of it, which what I would do, and this is a easy trick, you at first, well, just be careful you don't pour too much. But what I do is I shove the popsicle stick through, make sure it aligns up with the wheel, and then you press it onto the glue, and make sure that, well, depending on how it works, and make sure you don't also stick your fingers together. It's also the danger of super glue, but I like using it when it comes to assembling things. Magically on this bus, it did not wet it or anything. It's also why I would use cardboard if I'm sticking the wood, because I don't want to wet the ink and just make it look really ugly. Then we do the same thing on the other side. We do it on all wheels before we attach the bus together. We put some glue. You should see, you see that shiny? It's hard to see, but it's like a water. That's actually the glue. I put the I keep calling it a chopstick, the popsicle stick through, and then when I make sure that it's lined up, I correctly push it down. And I push it down until it fully gets a grip. And there you go. Now, if you want, you could also paint the popsicle sticks black as wheels, but I'm not going to, because if I was, let's say, trying to, like, it might scratch it and paint might come off. Unless you could find something similar, but like in a way that it came in like a black color and you didn't have to paint it, that should actually work a lot better. So then I put more glue here, more glue there. Then I take, it's better you do it one at a time, because you might accidentally stick your fingers. You could just see how thankfully, somehow when I'm doing these glues, my hands do not rip or anything, but that doesn't mean you should never, like you should always touch it. Never ever touch super glue. It's very dangerous when you're trying to, like, if your fingers are attached. Because once you glue your fingers together, that could send you to the emergency room. In fact, there was even a time where someone in my family or someone one time had glue. I think they got glue, like it had it somewhere at their eyes, not in their eyeball, but like it shut their eyes closed, which was tragedy. So just be careful. So this, I mean, this, like I said, this video is for adult supervision, not for adults. What I meant is that this video requires adult supervision when it comes to assembling, because you do not want children or anyone touching super glue. Anyway, yeah. So now we got the wheels assembled, so that's a good thing. Now the next step we're gonna do is we're gonna assemble the bus together. Now, be very careful when we attach this next part, but before we do, we have the windshield to attach as well. Yeah, apparently the windshield for some reason is a separate piece. But what I do is I fold it like this, and then I carefully, this is a tricky part, and I should have not cut the tabs. I cut the tabs off of when I make paper models, because the tabs can sometimes give it this effect to where it's too thick to attach. So I prefer, let's say, cutting the tabs off and just using tape as our sticky tabs, whatever. No, not the writing sticky tabs, I meant my own thing. Okay, whatever. This one is nice, it says Bloor. So now we have the windshield ready. Before we attach the windshield, we want to attach the windshield to the front of the bus. So what I'm going to use is clear tape. You can use a roll of clear tape or even glue if you don't cut the tabs off, but I prefer using tape. It's much easier and it gives it a smooth, shiny look anyways. So what I do is I take whichever area I want to tape, and then I put this windshield like this. I make sure I line it up carefully, because the way how this lines up doesn't always work. It depends, and sometimes it doesn't fully line up. Alright, there we go. I think I got that correct. Okay, there we go. Oh, and this, I would also do, like, this has like this strange triangle piece, and what I do is I fold that so that it keeps the windshield together. So if that windshield falls, you can roll it, not roll it, but you have to fold the tab so that it keeps it together. It's very tricky. Some buses that I made in the past are very tricky, others are only tricky because they take too long to make, or they're very long to make. So there it is. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna attach the other part to the other window. I'll be back. Alright, so as you can see, I attached the windshield. It was quite a while, or it took a while to do. Also, what I would do before you attach the windshield to the body, which we're gonna do, is you have to bend this so that the shape of the windshield connects together perfectly. Now it's time for the fun part. Before we do the fun part, we have to attach the bottom of this base here to the parts of the other side of the bus, like this. First, let's put tape on these ends. Now, if it's too long, which sometimes it is, I trim that off, but still keep it. I carefully fold, and I would give it a very tight fold, or tight, bonding, because sometimes it doesn't always bond properly, but it depends. You can just see how it just bonded very properly. Now we're going to attach the back, which is the fun part. Now, because I made this 3D, the grill, this is going to be very tricky to do, but I had solved this issue before, is I take a roll of tape that is like, and I make sure it's about the same length. Now, that's actually even better because we're gonna plan on attaching the back of it. But before we attach the back, we actually have to attach the sides. It's actually a better idea. Or should we... No, let's just attach the back. It's the tricky part anyways. So we take a piece of tape. If it's too long, we trim it like this. Then I take that roll of tape, or a piece of it, and attach it there. Now, obviously it's not going to attach like how we did it. So what I do is I cut where the fold is. Not cutting the bus, but just so that, because we have this trick here that I'm about to show you. So when you cut it like this is what you can do. You can attach the different folds on the areas that should be, well, attached. I would also be careful if it doesn't attach properly. This sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't always attach properly, but it depends on how you do it. See, I just did it properly, as you can see. Now it's a very, and I did it tightly, by the way, so that it doesn't fall off either. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. The other side is gonna be slightly harder because of the roof, but we can work around that. So I do the exact same thing I did, but on the other direction, or other side. And then I take the scissors and cut it at the line. The fold is actually lining up with the stripes, so I just have to cut it at the stripe area. And then I also put my finger behind it so that it gives it a tight feeling, or tight fold. And it should look something like this. And now the fun part, attaching the roof. Before we attach the roof, we have to make sure everything, especially this grill piece, is flattened correctly. Not the grill like sticking out, but I meant like the height of it is correct. We also want to curve the roof, but not too much. Just make a little fold. Make sure you don't make it crumble like how you're seeing it, or whatever. It will still look flat, maybe not as much because I added the folds. Now, also before we attach it, we've got to attach these little flappy areas too that I see here. See how it's not fully, like, you see how it's like that? So what I do is I fold the tape on that area, although before I do that, I want to rise it, or raise the thing higher, so that it will still remain its 3D shape, but it's just going to be lining up with the other edge. And when I fold the tape will stick itself like this. And now I have a grill piece that's not going to peel off because I folded it. See? That looks robust now. Okay. Just gonna shape it. I don't know why, sometimes the grill part is like my favorite area of the bus. I think it's just the 3D design, or how unique it is. Now it's time to... Next part is we're gonna attach the, basically attach the roof to the other body, which is a tricky part. But before we attach the roof, we have to first attach the back. Now sometimes when I cut the tape, it's not fully, like, or it's sometimes too long to cut. So I take a scissor and trim it to the right size. So you see this, we're going to use this as our tab. Now, this is a tricky step because you don't want to because we want the grill to be sticking up, but at the same time, we want to stick this together. But when we try to attach it, it kind of feels like we're going to flatten it. So the solution for this is we kind of play around with it, but until you do it correctly, you fold it immediately, not in a way you're doing it fast, but so that it attaches, and there you go. Look at that. That is a nice bond. This is probably the best one it came out as. And then now we have to attach the roof section. The front part is going to be the fun part, so stay tuned. I take a large roll of tape, like a packing tape or any of these duck-like tapes, but this is not a duct tape. It's similar to it, but it's not the same. We trim it to that size. Oopsie. Oh look, now our bus is stuck together. Well, don't worry because we can peel it off. And note, I laminated this with tape, so if it did stick by accident, I can easily peel it, but I do have to be careful still. So we take the long strip of tape that we cut off and we put it along the length of the bus, and make sure that when you do this you don't leave any air bubbles, and you want it to be completely flat. This is a very tricky part due to the cutting, and this is also why you have to cut very straight as well. So we now have this tab. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna attach the bus, but this is a tricky step. We have to fold the whole thing, but when you do, you notice how it's opening up. You want to fold it to where the bus is correctly folded, and it should not come off. Okay, I think we did it. Yeah, there you go. So it should look something like this. Now it's more of like a box. It's starting to look like it. All we have to do is just attach the front, and there we go. This did come with mirrors that you can attach, but there's honestly no point of attaching mirrors because the mirrors just fall off. Sorry about that. I had to move in for a moment, but all we have left is the windshield. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to get a roll of tape, and we're going to, if it's too long, cut it. Whatever. You take one side of the bus, any side, except for this one, which I'm going to show you what we're going to do. This part is tricky due to the design, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut little tabs, like slices. These are not going to be ripped off, but what's going to happen is when I fold the bus like this, let me show you. You see how it has these tabs? Well, when I fold the bus like this is very tricky. I kind of regret taping the bus together first, which is not a great idea, but, well, what you're gonna do. I tape it and mark it where the stripes are, and then I just basically tape it like that. Now for this bended shape, which unfortunately is a problem, and it's giving me a struggle, but what I do is I bend the shape and I take the other tabs of tape that I cut out or sliced and make one lap over the other, and there you go. You now have a windshield. Yay! And I'm gonna skip the other part, but what you can do if you want is you could try to trim it and make it more smoother, which but yeah, you can attach it like that. So there you go. Now we got that windshield done. Next, we do the same thing on the other side, except we only cut one area instead of just a bunch. And then we attach it together like this. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna attach, like I said, this can be tricky, but what I do is I measure the windshield line or the border so that it will bond easier. There we go. Now we just have to attach the top and we're good to go. So as you can see, I did it like this. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line it up with the roof of the bus. Make sure it's lined up. And then I fold. Now this is gonna look weird, but this is a trick I do. Is let me just get it out. Hold on. Jeez, it's sometimes a problem. What I do is I basically take the, so I do it like how I did it. At first you're gonna be like, how are you gonna attach it like this? Well, look closely. So I make sure that this is lined up, and then I fold it. Now this other part is like for some reason lifting up. Now the other trick I have is I cut like this, so it's like 3 tape flaps in total, or it would become 3. I fold the bottom ones in, and then for the big flap I fold it over, but I make sure when I fold it over I carefully flatten it. And I'm just trying to fix it. It's gonna be hard. Sometimes this the way how it bonds is not always easy, but it can. Just need to have patience. I'm gonna show you. There you go. That's how you attach it. And now you have your own paper bus. That is easy, but depending on which model you're choosing, can be hard to make. And what's also nice about this is because of the wheels, it's much easier to, and you can even slide it too, which I find nice. And there you go. So that's how you make your own transit bus. And I actually recommend one day making this. I think it's a pretty cool bus to show. And here are all the other ones I made. This one here is almost the same as this one because they both have destinations. Except, obviously there are differences, but they are like the same fold. And I did this new technique where when I glue the popsicle sticks, that the wheels are not going to bend. If anything, you could even make, I don't know, you could even use this to like slide and stuff. It's pretty cool actually. I really think it came out very nice. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and here's the other ones I made, but these are a slightly different style. They don't have the destination sign, but they are the same mold or same design or body structure. Now I have 4 of these now. I have my TDC custom one I did where I added something funny. It's hard to see. And I have this one, Mississauga Transit, this is Oakville Transit, and this is Niagara Falls Transit. Would be nice if they had a newer livery of this, but oh well, it's okay. I like all of them. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys some other time. Peace.